In the moment before she succumbed to her injuries, the soft, rasping voice of Revna called the Queen of the Skyador to a different fate. Now on the distant world of Valhalla and very much alive, Maladrix and her faithful guard work in tandem to prepare the remnants of their hive for war. Queen Maladrix, the Conqueror. That Queen Maladrix lives at all is a wonder. In Skyador society, young queens who set out to establish their own hive rarely survive the perilous journey. Fewer than 1 in 10 live long enough to hatch their first brood. Hatched prematurely and smaller than most queens, no one expected Maladrix to survive the night, let alone long enough to establish a fresh colony. Maladrix proved them all wrong. She snuck, fought, and bartered her way through the manifold dangers of Arboreus, but it was not enough. The clutch of eggs she carried was destroyed. All seemed lost. Desperate, she stalked another juvenile queen to her fledgling lair. The ensuing battle was brutal and desperate, but in the end, Maladrix prevailed, and the defeated queen's eggs were hers. Slowly, Maladrix began to wrap her dying rival in a fresh cocoon. Eventually, she would need to consume the conquered queen in order to synthesize her pheromones, but for now, she needed to rest. Within a year, Maladrix had established a successful hive. Within a decade, her hive was the envy of the region, a thriving Skyador bastion in a perilous world. With the core of her colony secure, Maladrix began the grueling process of laying and fertilizing more than 1 million eggs. Finally, her labors complete, she settled into a 1,000-year slumber, awaiting the second spawning of her young and the birth of a true hive. It was not to be. After centuries of peace, a colossal convulsion shook the hive, collapsing its tunnels under millions of tons of rock and ruin. Pinned by rubble as her dream died around her, Maladrix resigned herself to death. But before she succumbed, the soft, rasping voice of Revna called the Skyador Queen to a different fate. Summoned to Valhalla alongside the remnants of her murdered hive, Maladrix's mission remains unchanged. Battered but unbowed, Queen Maladrix the Conqueror will stop at nothing to restore the glory of her hive. Festering Honor Guard. When a juvenile Skyador queen leaves her home to found a fresh colony, she bears a clutch of eggs on her abdomen, shedding her wings and burrowing deep within the earth of Arboreus. She broods these precious eggs for months, ranging far and wide to amass a stockpile of cocooned nutrients for her gestating young. When they finally emerge, egg-slick and ravenous, they form the heart of the queen's nascent hive. They are the first of her many children and her finest warriors. Subsequent spawnings provide many other workers and warriors, but the first hatched honor guard are prized above all. The remnants of Maladrix's murdered hive arrived on Valhalla, scattered and broken. Weakened, disoriented, and bereft, the honor guard followed their queen's pheromone trail for 30 days and 30 nights until they were reunited. Were they still on Arboreus, it would be a simple matter to rebuild, but something is amiss. The soil of Valhalla is all wrong. The nutrients she has cocooned are peculiar and unpalatable, and her eggs refuse to hatch. Yet all is not lost. In her desperation, Maladrix discovered a twisted solution. By injecting zygotes in the living hosts, she found a horrific new way to replace her losses. Only the strongest hosts produce offspring, and the broodlings that emerge are strange and sinister. Still, for now, she has kept her dream alive. These gruesome implantations are merely a stopgap, a far cry from the vast, fecund brood pits of her murdered hive, but Maladrix knows it is crucial to preserve her honor guard at all costs. In turn, her festering honor guard fight with everything they have. Their unbreakable loyalty forged from bonds both spiritual and chemical. Even mortal wounds can fail to stop them. Often, total dismemberment is the only recourse. Should their queen fall, they become even more dangerous in their grief, and will lash out at anything within reach in a berserker frenzy. Bound and pledged to Maladrix, their queen, the legionnaires and phalanx of the insectoid Skyador have been given a new chance to defend their honor. Banding together to swarm and infest their opponents, they make any direct assault on the queen a daunting proposition. Oathbound Phalanx. Oathbinding is a simple process. A Skyador queen collects any hatchlings not showing enough promise for a higher station and prepares them for the oath vat. A steaming bath of neurotoxins carefully proportioned. As she works, her most trusted guards teach the young chosen the mantra they will repeat to all the rest of their lives. This mantra varies from hive to hive, each unique, but the substance is always the same. Loyalty, service, love, nothing else. The oath vat washes away all that is not the mantra oath. Those chosen feel no pain, simply the dissolving of their will and the gentle cleansing of all that is not useful to their queen. A clarity of purpose, the embrace of a simple life, easy, loving, painless. But when thousands and thousands pass through the vat, sometimes one falls victims to the imperfect process. These unfortunates are driven mad, feral in their devotion, agonized in their love, crazed, violent, devoted, and flawed. For Maledrix, this unusual outcome happens with unfortunate frequency. She often wonders if her devoured rival haunts her still. But no matter, a clever queen throws nothing away. Maledrix has collected her defective Oathbound into a phalanx, a living wall of frenzied maws and frothing loyalty, a beautiful weapon, growing ever stronger as the strange world of Valhalla grates against her hive. Oathbound Legionnaires. The crazed, poisoned minds of the Oathbound of Maledrix's slaughtered hive are well suited to war. Aggressive, heedless of their own safety and frothing with rage, these chemically mutilated warriors never yield. They are incapable of yielding. They think of nothing but their oath, and work for nothing but the preservation of their queen. The phalanx is the most intimidating formation and the easiest of their melted minds to perform. A ball of skittering wrath puts pause to many would-be assailants of their beloved hive. But some Oathbound are less mad than others. Not sane, never sane, but less mad. These are prone to acts of independence from the mob of Mauls. These unique Skyador do not hope for the queen to notice their service. They are not capable of such complex, self-centered thoughts. They want only to defend a hive that no longer exists, and in its absence, they want only to kill. Valhalla's untamed wilds are filled with mystery and magic. Every foreign wizard pulled from a distant world adds to the arcane power building within the Vale of Trees. From the subtle power of wise Sonlin to the ferocious might of bold Halucia, the keepers of the forest are ready to issue an answer suited to any challenge. Reawaken the ancient powers of the wild with the dynamic duo of Sonlin and Halucia, Scion of the Wild. These figures bring a unique blend of mystical abilities and primal fury to your Heroscape battlefield. Together, they embody the balance between nature's nurturing spirit and its untamed ferocity, making them powerful allies or fearsome adversaries. Halucia, Scion of the Wild. In the darkest groves of Arboreus, where gnarled trees choke out all but a sliver of sunlight and thorns grow as long as swords, a terrible guardian once roamed. Trespassers first heard the clamor of his hooves first, pounding against the loam, and then the scrape of a wooden blade honed as sharp as a razor, and a roar that echoed through the unlit glades as the Scion of the Wild awoke. They would not notice until too late that the roots had grasped their feet and gave no escape as the great wizard galloped into view with an outstretched sword, ready to cleave heads from shoulders. For Halucia, to harm the hallowed trees of Arboreus from whence the enchanted lifeblood of the world flowed was an offense worthy of a swift death. Those who brought rot and decay to a world of everlasting life earned his ire above all. But Halucia's stewardship has endured for centuries, and as time has blurred his memories through 1,000 springs and winters, he scarcely remembers which world he walks now. Truthfully, it matters not to him that wherever a dying land cries out for vengeance, he will answer with his blade. Sonlin. The Archmage Sonlin is one of Ullar's oldest and most trusted servants. The myriad magics of his homeland, Phelan, are his to command, and the healing powers of his dragon companion, Vesla, go stronger as Valhalla's war-torn years pass them by. The inhabitants of Ullar's lushly forested domain speak freely of Sonlin's wisdom, dedication, and tenacity. He is a man who makes friends easily and has few detractors. Sonlin's heart bleeds for Valhalla. He cannot help but love its sweeping landscapes, brave inhabitants, and unknowable secrets. This love protects him from the bitterness of his exile, since the poisoning Ullar has become paranoid, mistrusting, and lashing out at even his closest friends. Yet, even as he departs, banished to rot and solitude, Sonlin's love for Ullar endures. It is quite fortunate that the Archmage has made so many friends during his travels. Without the strength of Ullar's army to support him, Sonlin would be terribly vulnerable. Even the pirates coalesce to avoid weathering the war alone. Good then that clever Shiori remembers him fondly from their travels in the Maros swamp, and puts her skill at espionage to use on his plan. Other pieces fall into place along the way as the elf's many allies are brought into the fold. There is too much to love in war, torn Valhalla to let it fall. If the Valkyrie cannot save themselves, then mortals must rise to the challenge. The seemingly sudden rise of the new Valkyrie General Volarak and the rampant industrial might she commands has changed the course of the war. What her forces lack in numbers, they more than make up in ingenuity and panache. The sight of her intrepid Vorid troops weaving through enemy fire on clockwork wings with practiced precision, picking off foes at every turn, is a sure sign that a battle is soon to turn in Volarak's favor. Wing Commander Tuck Harrigan. The line between fact and legend blurs where Tuck Harrigan is concerned. Some say he single-handedly rescued the Chancellor on no fewer than 3 occasions. Others claim he captured 2 enemy ornithopters in the same battle. At least one less than scrupulous publication claimed he could dodge bullets. In all ways except the literal, Tuck Harrigan was a larger-than-life figure on Noxstorm. As far as the Synodont hegemony is concerned, the truth of Harrigan's exploits matters less than what he symbolizes, the triumph of the state over its enemies and the skies themselves. Tuck would never admit that he misses the attention, the celebrity status, and even the PR tours from his life on Noxstorma, though in truth he had grown used to them. At least Volarak still keeps him supplied with access to the latest gadgets. He will just have to get up to some more of his trademark heroics and build his reputation anew. Vorid Glide Strikers. Victory on wings! Glide Strikers swoop in to save the day. Headline from the West Ham Tribune. When the Vorids first took to the skies, it changed Noxstorm and warfare forever. At the forefront of the technological revolution were the elite Glide Strikers. Deploying behind enemy lines from the first prototype battle blips, these intrepid soldiers secured 3 cycles of dominance for the Synodont hegemony. Though Vorid technology has since moved on to even more advanced contraptions, the Glide Strikers still favor highly modified versions of their original wingsuits, maneuvering in them like a second skin. Those who have had the privilege to fight beside them call their aerial acrobatics nothing short of extraordinary. Those who fight against them rarely live long enough to call them anything at all. Shaken by the Peace Summit's collapse, Jandar sent his trusted knights to lock down his borders and ensure no such incidents could occur on his land. Towering over most soldiers, these imposing Ursine bring to bear an arsenal of powerful harpoon cannons and crushing maces larger than most men. Knight Primus Adalbern. When Adalbern first arrived on Valhalla, he remained silent. His eyes were distant and he stayed in Jandar's keep, avoiding action and instead staring darkly into the tree line. He remained this way until Sergeant Drake Alexander, a former soldier of Earth and beloved agent of Jandar, returned from a mission leaving the retreat. Drake has a unique understanding of how war changes men. His gentle coaxing finally broke the Great Bear's silence, and Adalbern spoke of his crushing defeat. Failure and death had followed him to Valhalla, where endless war seemed to be the only reward for his life as a warrior. Drake shared with Adalbern Jandar's promise. Those who survive the battle for all time will be returned home through the Wellsprings to live their lives again on their own worlds. And though there's something amiss about the way Drake holds his face while he says it, the promise is enough for Adalbern. His ferocity reignited, the Knight Primus of the Frostclaw clan will cut down any foe to secure a second chance at his true enemies on Noxstorma. Ordo Borealis. The Frostclaw clan of Noxstorma is known for its overwhelming displays of power. Their territories are defended by the divisive strikes of enormous warriors with hearts of steel. Even the smallest among them are still large, though perhaps less ferocious than their brethren. A lack of natural ferocity and size, however, can be compensated for with cleverness. The neighboring Vorid cities have taught the Ursine this through their battle machines and strange augmentations. The Ordo Borealis, eager to support the fight, but reluctant to engage directly in battle, have spent countless hours with their Vorid allies, mastering the deadly launching devices they now wield. Even the ever-dour Adalbern recognizes the value of this dedicated study on the battlefield. After untold ages adrift in space, nurturing the faintest of embers, the Hellforge blazes once more, and Manticore must feed it, devouring anything and everything in its path of its inexorable advance. This suits Revna just fine. She need only point Manticore at her enemies and watch the flames consume them. Hellforge Manticore. At first, the entire crew took up the reframe as they fed every non-essential item they could find into Hellforge Manticore's roaring furnace. So long as the Hellforge burned, the Eisenach aboard the Brimstone-class Star Cruiser Terror could still hope to repair the ravaged vessel. Those hopes, alas, were in vain. As days turned to weeks, it became clear that the ship could not be salvaged. As the weeks turned to months and no help came, the crew's ritualistic refrain died away. It would soon be replaced by screams of terror. With non-essential supplies exhausted and further repairs impossible, the crew initiated shutdown protocols, hoping their rations would last until a rescue vessel arrived. Hellforge Manticore had other ideas. When his fellow Icenek attempted to shut down the forge, Manticore knocked them aside and began devouring anything in sight, starting with the food. The crew mounted a brave defense, but their weapons had been among the first things to be fed to the Hellforge's flames. As the terror drifted silently through the void, Manticore began to hunt. One by one, he caught and consumed his comrades, pitiless in his grisly work. At last, with nothing left to burn, with the last guttering finger of forge fire nearly extinguished, Manticore switched off his photo detectors and prepared for the end. But it was not the end. With a sickening lurch, the deck of the Terror vanished, and Manticore suddenly found himself in a blasted wasteland. Before him loomed a towering figure cloaked in leather made from 2 enormous bat wings, flanked by smaller winged humanoids of a more angelic mien. Sensing Manticore's malevolence, one of the slighter Kyrie took to the air in a flash of feathers. That same instant, Manticore's steel claw lashed out, catching the Kyrie by the foot and dragging the struggling creature into its nightmare maw. In a flash, its furnaces flamed anew. Though Revna was somewhat less than charmed by their introduction, she recognized Manticore's power and potential. Drafted into her service, Hellforge Manticore's forge fire now burns with infernal fury. Never again will the sacred furnace starve. Never again will the flames gutter and go out. Though he has rejoined the Icenek war host, even they stay well clear of his vice-like grip, for they know full well that Manticore no longer discriminates between friend and foe. Manticore gazes upon Valhalla and sees only one thing: fuel.